Welcome on to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your host, Eddie B. So what is the top 5 things we need to do to reform Congress? Now, look, I know this isn't one of the most exciting subjects, but you got to stick with me on this because this stuff is important, man, because our future leaders are getting worse and worse and worse. So we really need to get some things going into government to start regulating these people's behavior. Because if we don't, pretty soon it's going to be a circus every time we have an election, okay? So let's get right into it. But first, smash the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Remember, guys, like-minded people who think alike got to stick together. We got to get the word out, and this is how we do it, man. You got to subscribe to my channel. Tell all your friends. We got to get the word out, and, so we can start getting some group power going. But anyways, top 5 things to reform Congress. Number 1, this isn't new, but it's very important, and I think Trump's got the guts to get it done. We got to get term limits going for these people, okay? I think that whether you are whichever side of the aisle you're on, you can sit and watch Congress meetings. You can sit and watch these people have, meetings, and it's very obvious that some of those people are just too old to be there, okay? Especially now we're going into the AI, future that we're going into with computers and tablets and everything. These people don't know how to do any of that. They're just out of touch with it. And look, I don't think you want 30-year-olds up there because they don't have enough life experience, okay? But I'm thinking, 60, 65, a person is at their peak. They're sharp. But after that, it starts to go away and they start to lose touch with the generations before them. And I think it's time to go, man. So let's get some term limits in place so that we can, our leaders have to represent the people, who they're governing over. And we need it to be that way. So I'm all for term limits. Like I said, they're not going to term limit themselves. That's a fact. So, Trump's got the chip on his shoulder right now. He's a reformative guy. Let's get out there, man. Let's put them term limits in place. They're all going to whine and cry about it, but it's the best thing for us, man. We can't have people in the Senate or in the House for 30, 40 years. They're half senile. Like I said, they're out of touch with this generation. They don't know how to use computers. Half of them don't know any of that stuff. And it's very obvious now. So let's get that taken care of. Number 2, I see this starting to go down the slippery slope, and it needs to be addressed now before it gets out of control, is the dress code, okay? Now, I'm a casual dresser, okay? Even when I go out to dinner and stuff, I'm a pretty casual guy. However, when you elect a leader, basically what we're saying as a society is, hey, you're the best person to represent us as a group. We're putting you in that spot. We're paying you $190,000 a year. We have faith in your intelligence. But we want correct representation. That means I don't want you walking around Congress in a hoodie and flip-flops. I don't care if I do it because I'm an average citizen. I'm a normal guy. But when you're in Congress and you're representing us not only to the country, but to the world, I want you impeccable. I want you dressed correctly. I want your hair right. All of that. Because we don't need some wacky looking nut jobs up there. Because the truth is nobody respects that. They might act like they respect it and they might not say something to your face, but it's ridiculous and it's grimy. Again, I'm a casual person, okay? But I'm not the one getting elected to go up there and represent millions of people. So They need to tighten up on this and not make it, it was always customary in the past to have a certain attire and dress and decorum and stuff, but that's all seemed to have gone out the window. So since that's gone out the window, they need to make actual rules and make it to where folks in Congress can get in trouble or get kicked out of Congress or something, because this is just going to start slipping further and further down the path. And pretty soon, it's going to look like we got a bunch of hood rats up there representing us. John Fetterman is a perfect example. Okay. I got nothing against the guy, but it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see him walk around in a hoodie and sweatshirt in Congress. We don't need that. It's ridiculous. Get a three-piece suit. We're paying you 190 grand a year. You can afford it. Wear it when you're doing your job. On your personal time, do whatever you want. We don't care. Just when you're representing us, the people, we expect more. Okay. Code of conduct. Now look, this lately stuff has been getting out of control, man. Okay, you got Jasmine Crockett up there acting like a stripper, and and I did a previous podcast on that, and I'm telling you, she acts just like a stripper. I work in a strip club business. I know how strippers act. She acts just like one. And again, I got nothing against strippers. I love them. I work with them a lot. I've worked with them for years. But I didn't hire them to represent us. You see what I'm saying? She represents, I think it's Minnesota's 5th district. She needs to have some decorum. She's up there doing the chicken head, throwing her head and her hair all over the place, just acting ghetto and ridiculous.
Because I know where they were trying to go with it, right? It is this fear that the people within the party, within the primary system, will have about voting for a woman, because every time we voted for a woman, we've lost so far. And I think that that's a natural fear, because we just want to win. So there's a lot of people that are like, you know what? Like, let's go find the safest white boy we can find. I mean, I'm just saying.
Okay, and it's embarrassing. That is not leadership. I don't care what you call it. When people do that stuff, that's cover for I don't know what I'm talking about. That's really what it is. Because when somebody knows the policies and they know what they're doing and they know what they're trying to achieve, they can get that out by speaking a certain way, correct? But when they don't know, what they do is they cover it up with a bunch of bluster and body motion and catchphrases and a bunch of junk that doesn't mean anything. And she does that constantly. You know what I'm saying? So what that tells me is she doesn't know what she's doing. She's a showboater, and she doesn't know how to do policy. She can't articulate the message, so her message is just to act ghetto and get everybody up in a tizzy. But that, again, that's terrible. Now, besides her, you've got Ilhan Omar, who this week is talking about white men must be monitored because we're the problem in America.
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Right? Now, again, man, you're a representative in Congress and you're going to talk like that? That's insane. Okay? Again, now excuse me, I think I made a mistake. She's the 5th district of Minnesota, not Jasmine Crockett. But anyways, so okay, 60% of her constituents are white, and she's out there talking racial crap against them. I just look, if we don't get a hand on this stuff now, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, man. They're all going to be up there throwing it around, racial garbage, causing dissent amongst the people that they represent. And again, when people do that, what that is a sign of is that they don't know the policy. So they just run their mouth, use a bunch of clickbait phrases, racism, this, that, the other thing. We don't need none of that in the government. We need people who can act laws that help the people that they represent. And that's on both sides, man. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Shut your mouth and work on the policies. Stop all this fake ghetto attitude. And it's coming out more and more, and they better stop this before too long, or it's going to be a major, major problem. Okay, now, this is a big one because it seems like everybody that goes into Congress goes in, kind of normal person, whatever. Maybe they had a business, maybe they were a smart lawyer, maybe they went to a big college, and they leave Congress rich as hell, right? And what is that all about? Well, that's because of all the insider stock trading and investment that they do while they're in Congress. Because let's face it, You have all the inside information if you're in Congress. You know what bills are going to be passed, that's going to help certain businesses and certain corporations. You can also give corporations, leeway so that their stocks will go up. Well, you happen to own stock in that corporation, right? So we really need to clamp down and police on that because, look, I'm not a hater, man. I love when people make money, become successful, start businesses, and do good. But what I don't like is when people cheat and they grift off of the knowledge that they have because they're in government, and then they get rich as hell, and then they snob their noses up at us like we don't, like we're the little people, and that ain't right, okay? Because they really ain't doing nothing to get that money except for cheat. It ain't like they're so smart and they're so ingenious or they started some great business. No, they didn't do none of that. They just know what's about to happen with policy, and they buy stock according to that policy, and it makes them rich. Every one of them. And that's on both sides of the aisle. And that's why they never talk about it, and nobody ever points a finger at the other side, because the truth is they're all doing it. Okay? And it's funny because I've always wondered growing up, like, why do these people fight so hard to get into government? I mean, look, campaigning, you go around traveling your state for 6 months. You're putting it all on the line. You're out there day and night. I mean, it's a lot of work. And I always thought, yeah, you get the power and stuff, but what's the big payoff on that? Well, the truth is they get rich as hell, and they get rich from insider trading on stocks and investment. And that stuff needs to stop. Now, also, a big trick that they do is, so they don't bring the heat on themselves, because the public looks down on it, right? They don't tell on each other in government, but the public looks down on it if they find out. So what they do is, they might not buy stock themselves, but they have their brother or sister or kids or who else buy a ton of stock in some certain company on an insider trading tip. Well, if regular folks do insider trading and get caught, they go to prison, right? It's illegal. It's highly illegal. But these government people, they just get away with it and they don't tell on each other, so nobody cares. Well, it's got to be stopped, okay? We need to get people back in government who are, and again, look, I want them to make a good living. 190 grand, that's good living, okay? They get expense accounts. They get to travel for free. They have assistance. A lot of their stuff is taken care of. And look, I agree with that. Right? You represent us. I want you to look good. I want you to be, driving around a nice car. All of that. But this whole getting rich, man, it's grifting off of insider trading, which is illegal. Okay. So we really need to clamp down on these things, because you can see in the modern times, there was always just like unwritten rules about how you should act and your code of conduct. And now nobody cares. Now, if it isn't written on paper, they'll break the rule. And it's gotten very hyper aggressive, and you can see it's going to be way worse soon. Okay. I just think it's time for them to get together, make some rules, and look, again, they're not going to regulate themselves. The Trump administration needs to get this done before he gets out of office. Because if not, then it's never going to change. So let's get together, figure out what needs to be put into place, and if they get those top 5 things done, it'll reset Congress. We will have a bunch of professionals back up there worrying about policy, not just running their mouth, and we can get some things done. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my video. This is Eddie from Studio 321. Talk to you soon. Good night.